right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Design Review Board public meeting of September 28th, 2017 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants on an application to be reviewed today, are asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be asked to speak by the board when your case is called. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project in the event of a return for redesign decision by the board must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling or by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB appeal is available from staff. Roll call. Ms. Arzumanian.
Here.
Mr. Belnian.
Here.
Mr. Churchian.
Here.
Mr. Malikian.
Here.
And Mr. Simoni.
Present.
Great, thank you. Report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on September 20th, 2017. Oral communications. Is there any speaker card associated with an item not on the agenda?
I do not have it.
Does anybody in the audience want to speak on an item not a part of the agenda? All right, seeing none. Staff announcements. We have no staff announcements at this time. So, I'm sorry, do I normally go over procedures of the meeting?
Yes, please.
We do that
Yes.
now? Okay, sorry about that. Procedures of the meeting. Design Review Board staff will give an overview of the project. The applicant or the applicant's authorized representative will then be asked to come forward stating both their name and address and interest in the project. They will have 5 minutes to present to the board the project. The board may ask questions at this time. Others in support of or in opposition to the project will be asked to come forward. Again, stating clearly both their name and address. Each speaker will be allowed 2 or 3 minutes to speak. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to make any closing comments and will have 2 minutes to speak. The hearing will be closed and the board will discuss the project amongst themselves and render a decision. Board members may ask questions of anyone, but there will be no debate or further comments taken. The board may entertain staff's comments and recommendations during its deliberation prior to making a decision. Record of decisions for all projects will be posted online in the Planning Division's website. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. All right. So we will now proceed to the, we've got 4 cases before you this evening.
Yes.
The first case is actually my case on Victory Boulevard.
Okay.
Would you like me to start?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's get
Actually,
started.
So someone should read the case number into the record?
yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize it was.
And they usually does it.
All right. The first case is PDR 1709825. The address is 833 through 851 Victory Boulevard. The applicant is Ben Koretsky, and the project is some proposed murals. So, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first item is 1709-825, a review of a proposal to install 7 murals at an existing commercial complex located at 1833-1851 Victory Boulevard. The murals will be painted on the northeast structure of this group of connected buildings and will face the parking lot at the corner of Allen Street and the alley to the rear. 2 of the 7 murals are already in place. They're already existing, installed, and did not receive proper approvals. One of the existing murals faces north toward the adjacent alley, and the other faces south toward Victory Boulevard. 4 of the 5 remaining proposed murals are on the building wall, and one is on the low staircase / ramp wall. So it might be easier to actually, if let me hold these up for a second. Okay, so this is one of the existing murals right here. And this mural is, here's the alley. It's in this location here.
On the alley.
It's on the building facing the alley. Yeah. From this picture, you're standing in the alley right here. This is the other existing mural, and that's actually right in this area. So it's facing Victory. And then the other murals are proposed, or their locations are proposed. And they're located on in this area facing Allen. And then there's a staircase wall, or a staircase / ramp wall right here. And there's one proposed in that location.
So nothing on the front.
There is nothing on the front right here, no.
Mr. Kiesel, do we have the radius map that would maybe, that you could help us with the adjacent zoning? So is this property on, or you could maybe take this out. So this is our property.
Correct.
Is this property zoned commercial as well?
This is all commercially zoned, and then from, basically the alley or the vacated alley back, residential.
Also all resident?
Yeah.
And I assume everything on the other side of Victory is commercial as well?
This is commercial as well. I will need to look about this.
And do you know if it's C1 or C2?
This here,
Yes.
let me look in the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
He could answer that question for me later, so if we gotta.
So,
move along, we
can
could.
we go over the staff report? And I just want to kind of go through, and there is a interesting section regarding the First Amendment, and then we're
Right.
talking about the first, second, and third. So my question to you is, obviously, mural is a art piece, and we're considering it as an art image. So if somebody comes and paints a building, for example, any color, red, green, blue, whatever, are they going to need to come in front of us? Or add some
If-
colorful paintings, or like, not a mural, but just add colors to their building? Are they going to be in front of us?
If someone is painting their building, no, it doesn't require a permit.
Okay.
If it's a mural, yes, murals require approval by you all, by the board.
So, can we go down the list and just kind of briefly, so the public can hear what you have?
Sure. Yeah, I was just, I hadn't completed my presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's fine. I just thought it might be easier to show you where the murals are, as
Okay.
opposed to me just describing them. So, Glendale, thank you. The area on Victory, the commercial area is actually in IMU, industrial. So Glendale Municipal Code Section 30.47.040G requires the design review board to ensure that murals are consistent with 6 standards. And those standards were listed in the staff report and then the arguments below them. In terms of First Amendment rights, cities may regulate signs and murals, but generally cannot enact or enforce a law or standard that regulates signs on the basis of content. The board should really focus strictly on the 6 standards and apply them in an objective and a reasoned manner, and then cite specific reasons tied to the objectives that support the decision. If you have, any other First Amendment type questions, we have the city attorney here, Yvette Nukian, who can maybe guide you further. You want me to just continue with the standards? Okay. So the first standard was, or is, murals shall not contain any letters, numbers, symbols, or symbols that constitute any form of advertisement or commercial message. So the murals that you saw pictures of, aside from the 2 that are actually existing now, so the murals on the walls that are proposed are really just placeholders. Those murals are probably not going to be what actually gets installed on the walls. So the mural represented will not be the actual design proposed. They're just sort of, this is the location of where we want to place the murals.
So we don't know what's that graphic is going to look like.
Right.
Would it come back to staff at that point for approval that it meets the 6 guidelines of mural?
Well, that's why we are conditioning it.
I see.
Yeah. So to ensure that the murals aren't going to run afoul of this requirement, we would suggest adding a condition that that states that no mural shall contain letters, numbers, or symbols that constitute advertising or commercial message. So, should a mural be installed that contained any of those, they would be against the condition, and we would, rectify that, how we rectify any code enforcement issue through sending out a code enforcement officer. The second standard is a mural shall not contain any obscenity. Again, we suggest that a condition be added to the project to prohibit the incorporation of obscenities on any of the murals.
But isn't that a direct argument against the First Amendment? I mean,
That may be a question for Yvette.
Thank you.
and going back to number 1 and number 2, so yes.
Yes, members of the DRB, thank you for having me. Although it can be argued that this is content regulation, obscenity regulations are objective enough that we feel they're defensible in court because for a variety of reasons. We could show that there's a compelling state interest in not allowing this. So there are some regulations. It's not that cities are without the power to regulate content. It's just that some things we can't go too far, and that's why these standards are fairly objective. And so if you follow them, we're confident that a court is not going to. If there's a challenge, a court would probably not overturn the decision.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so the third standard is murals shall not detract from the architecture of the site or surrounding area. The proposed murals will be located on the western wall of the building, as well as the low wall adjacent to the staircase or handicap ramp. And those murals I'm referring to, the ones that haven't been installed yet. The existing murals face north toward the alley and south toward Victory Boulevard. The western building facade is alternatingly faced with board form concrete and stucco, and then also contains a metal parapet on top. I'm describing what the existing building looks like now. The building is a low-slung, boxy, utilitarian structure with no real particularly defined architectural style. 4 murals are proposed within the stucco-faced portions of the facade, leaving the board form portion of the wall, which staff believes is the more interesting facade treatment, exposed. The wall murals range in area from approximately 85 square feet to 252 square feet. The mural proposed on the staircase handicap ramp is about 270 square feet. So while the area of the murals takes up a significant portion of the overall western facade, implementation of the project will not detract from the architecture of the site, given the murals are proposed on the plain stucco-faced portions of the building. In addition, the murals overlook the parking lot and are approximately 50 feet from the Allen Avenue right-of-way. These murals will primarily be seen by drivers and pedestrians traveling east on Victory Boulevard and from Allen Avenue, which is a residential street. Some of the murals are also visible from several homes on the north side of Allen Avenue. The existing murals that haven't had the benefit of an approval yet are located on the portion of the building also faced with stucco. The mural facing the alley is approximately 50 square feet, and will be seen by those traveling south on Allen Avenue. It will also be visible from several nearby residences. The mural on the south wall is approximately 300 feet from Victory Boulevard, and will be visible from that street for those traveling north, and from those traveling north on Allen Avenue. Given the location of the murals, the building's existing setbacks, and the murals' distance from the street right-of-way, the proposed artwork should not detract from the surrounding neighborhood. Murals shall not cause the removal of required landscaping. That's the 4th standard, and there is no required or currently existing landscaping removed as a result of the murals. Murals must be durable and capable of being well maintained. This is another condition that staff is recommending. The applicant is committed to maintaining and repairing the murals, which are composed of oil and oil-based paint, and staff is recommending a condition of approval to address this. The last standard is murals shall be located on existing walls, and the majority of the murals are proposed on the western wall of the building. There is also a mural placed on the staircase wall, and the 2 existing murals are on the northern and southern facades of the building, so they comply with that standard. So staff is recommending approval of the project with the following conditions. The approval is granted for the location shown on the submitted application. Changes to the location or sizes of the murals shall be reviewed by staff. No mural installed shall contain letters, numbers, or symbols that constitute any form of advertising or commercial message. The 3rd condition, no mural installed shall contain any obscenity. And the final condition, all murals installed shall be well maintained. So that concludes my presentation. I did want to note you had a number of emailed correspondence, both for and against. They're placed on your desk. And I also received a phone message earlier this afternoon from a woman who lives in the neighborhood opposing the project.
Thank you. So I believe we had enough time to go over all the letters, and if we have any, if we need any time to go over them, I'll let you guys carry on after we close the public hearing. So we're going to start with Kirk Kartosian.
Hello, members of the Design Review Board and staff. My name is Kirk Kartosian. We are the project manager for the applicant, who is also here present as well. Has been the culmination to this point of about 6 months of work in an effort to collaborate with staff on a comprehensive mural program. We understand it is very unique. It's not necessarily one with much precedent in the city of Glendale, but staff has spent a fair number of hours, and we've tried to conform to the standards that they feel can set a good and fair precedent for future applicants to come as well. I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but they can address that a little bit as well. This property is one that has gone through an extensive amount of renovation, and that's not a part of what you're looking at necessarily, but for the better part of the last 2 years, we've worked with the city on the office campus. There have been improvements upwards of $1 million placed into this facility. The design and architectural elements, even some of the artistic elements of the building, they're obviously subjective in nature. We understand that. But no one who's ever driven by this property on Victory has ever indicated anything other than a very high quality standard design and construction. The reason why I share that is because the applicant is not interested in devaluing their own property. They are only looking for elements that enhance the property and the ability of passers-by to enjoy. There is one component of our project that is called 3D Retro. It is a collectibles shop. Some of you may have driven by, some of you may have had your children go there, or nieces and nephews. It's very popular, not just in Glendale, and not necessarily just throughout Southern California, but many patrons come from out of town when they are visiting the studios nearby in Burbank, Studio City, Universal, etc. We like to really appeal to your awareness of trends. There is a mounting trend. It's moving even eastward, southward. The studio trend is huge in our area, and these murals are really a reflection of that. It is a component of the businesses that we that are housed here on site. There will be, to restate, no nudity, no obscenity, no vulgarity, no commercialization, and really it's an expression of art by some of the most well-known cartoonists in the world. Not that you may consider it at the highest level, but we are talking about in the tens of thousands of dollars in costs to produce what are often and will be real-time representations conforming to guidelines that we are willing to abide by with staff. With that, we're here and able to answer any questions you might have, but again, we see ourselves as an applicant for future precedent that we believe Glendale will eventually have to address, and we think we're doing it in the highest of standards and ways, and with considerable cost and love and emotion as well. I'm trying to take the emotion out of it, hence why we as a representative are speaking on behalf of the applicant, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but I would conclude what I'd share right now and happy to come back at any time if necessary.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, let me step in for just a second. Your packet also included artist bios. Again, those are potential artists. They're not the artists that are chosen, but that just sort of gives you an idea of who these artists may be.
Okay, thank you. Susan Molick?
Good evening. I'm Susan Molick, a resident of Glendale for 32 years and a homeowner at 315 Allen Avenue for 20 years. My house is directly across the street from the alley of the commercial property at 1833 to 51 Victory Boulevard. Rancho Glendale is a unique area with horse properties, tree-lined streets, and views of Griffith Park in his country-like neighborhood with a Western heritage culture. Our neighborhood is a mix of single-family homes, multiple residential units with some small businesses along Victory Boulevard. I am here to oppose the installation of the murals on the exterior of the business and have several concerns, including safety issues. Existing and unpermitted mural number 1 is located on the alley behind the commercial building just off of Allen Avenue. This is a public alleyway between Allen and Irving Avenue, used day by day by neighbors and children who walk or play or drive through the alley. This is in addition to large trucks making deliveries to the rear of the building and employees parking in the alley parking lot. On an almost daily basis, several times a day, U-turns are made in the alley just off Allen Avenue when drivers realize they're crossing city borders and want to get back on a Victory Boulevard. Children and neighbors get distracted by the mural and stop in the middle of the alleyway to look at the mural, and drivers get distracted as well. This is potentially dangerous, and we would not want to see a neighbor or child hit and be injured or killed. Regarding existing unpermitted mural number 2, with negative and disturbing content which seems to depict violence against a child, which I think could be considered an obscenity, and the 5 murals proposed that will overlook the parking lot of Allen Avenue. These murals are just off Victory Boulevard, a highly used road with speeding traffic going towards the 134 freeway. The proposed murals are so large and oversized, brightly colored, and out of character in the neighborhood, it's hard to believe that it would not be a distraction to drivers going east on Victory from Burbank into Glendale, and for drivers turning the corner onto Allen Avenue. Again, this is a potentially dangerous situation, and we would not want to see one of our neighbors or a child hit by a car, injured or killed. A few months back, a car driving east on Victory from Burbank into Glendale hit a parked car on Victory Boulevard, crashed and flipped over, and landed on its roof in the street directly in front of the applicant's business. My house is in direct sight of unpermitted mural number 1, a huge animal-like character that looks like many of the toys that are sold by the business on the rear of the building in the alley that I'm forced to see every day from my front porch, my front window, and my dining room window, along with several of my neighbors. This would be the same for the 5 proposed additional murals on Allen Avenue. All areas where the murals are proposed are located high on the walls and are highly visible. The murals are inconsistent with design standards, out of character in our area, and detract from the surrounding neighborhood and the Western character and heritage of our rancho neighborhood. The murals do nothing to enhance the aesthetics of our area or our quality of life, and would only make our neighborhood look less attractive,
Ms. Moloch,
negatively.
you need to wrap this up.
Okay,
You
I
had
oppose
only
the
have 3
installation of
minutes.
all murals on the business, and I ask that the applicant's request be denied.
Thank you. Tom Moloch?
Tom Molick, resident 315 Ellen, 20 years. Well, here we are again from 2010, wondering why we're still living with conditions at 1833 to 51. It's also very distracting from our daily lives. Somehow these combined properties have slipped through the design review process. The city has been constantly trying to correct the errors that were on the property, but there's still many that remain. Prior to your commencement here in 2014, there were unresolved issues. The issue of the old warehouse building at 1851 converted to an office use. The issue of the parking lot at 312 Allen that is used for the business's parking, which is an R3050H unvarianced lot. Now they want more signage. There are 2 permits locked on the sign portal, on the property information portal for signs. There are really 4 signs existing on the property right now, and they want 5 more murals to be put on. Really, we love and appreciate clean media and media-oriented businesses, and we respect all the improvements that the new owners have made. We horse property owners understand city zoning standards and codes because we live by them. We nearby owners also recognize the current issues of street art versus contemporary and pop art. This appreciation is not just for unpermitted or extra murals, it's an expansion of the urban standards throughout the city when the existing conditions have slipped through over the years. Perhaps in our case, the Urban Arts Code Standards, the Municipal Code Chapter 3037, that's employed by the city in other areas, Roger has that, I'm sure, should be applied to distinguish the issues of art and design standards that you need to uphold. We got 5 other issues there. I won't even get into those that haven't been reviewed. If approved today, this will have an adverse effect on our residential populations, our scenic vista, our historical equine culture, and surely will degrade the existing character of the buildings, surroundings, and then our quality of life. As you all are interested in urban design and land use, that it preserves the visual character of existing residential neighborhoods and promotes attractive commercial businesses and compatible land uses, sizes, styles, setbacks, landscaping, all have code requirements. If this property is somehow slipped through a full design review process, well, then it creates a non-conforming use, doesn't it? Perhaps it should be gone through a full design review by the Community Development Department. We have values. We value our location, our views, our vistas, our Griffith Park mountains, our businesses, our local communities, the neighbors, the properties, the residential and commercial equine cultures. The city design standards that you regularly review are there to protect our values, so please deny this application and any others setting precedent converse to the codes. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ Bartholomew?
My name's Russ Bartholomew. I live at 316 Allen Avenue. For a year, I've been looking out every window almost in my house at that bunny, doggy, 15-foot high character. And it's not a good thing to do. It's not in keeping with the area. It's not in keeping with anything. And it faces directly into the residential section. Additionally, according to the Glendale codes, that's graffiti. It's unauthorized murals on the wall is graffiti. It was put up in December. We mentioned it to the city in December, and they're supposed to correct that in 7 days, and nothing's been done. It's still there, still unpermitted, and it's still graffiti as far as I'm concerned, by your definition of graffiti, which is unauthorized paintings on the wall. In addition, we think this detracts from our property values, because all you can see from my house is that bunny, doggy bunny, whatever it is. And it's disgusting. The other thing I'd say is that is intended to sell product. All of these things are caricatures of things that they sell in that store as part of one of their games or part of one of their products. And as such, they should have different definitions. And that 15-foot high bunny is not something that should be allowed. So, oops, I didn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to rebuttal?
Yes, Kirk Cartosian again. We certainly understand that there are a few neighbors who might have a difference of opinion of art. It's certainly not offensive or vulgar material. And this is a commercial corridor. The Victory Boulevard corridor is not residential. There are residential streets just to the east of the property. However, there are the gentleman who spoke and the lady are the most affected as far as being able to be visible. But we're on a commercial corridor. Also, the alleyway that was spoken of, we actually agree that there have been some safety issues in the past with that alleyway. And we worked for about 18 months, and we were able to get the city of Glendale to agree to vacate and allow the property owner, which is also the applicant, on both sides of the alleyway, will be able to secure the site, maintaining it, also allowing fire access at appropriate times. That was part of what was the effort of the applicant to secure that site. Vagrants, whether it be children or whomever were walking by, there were cars that were driving through there. The applicant has taken those steps, and it's part of a larger project. So it will be secured. That didn't happen overnight. It occurred with a lot of title efforts to ascertain and confirm that the applicant was the property owner and there were no other interests carrying easements across either side of the public alleyway, which will be essentially a former public alleyway.
So now I have a question for you. So if you vacate the alley, how do you exit from the parking lot? Do you still keep the alley at the front end of it? Because the parking that you have, it's in an angle, so you have to exit in through the alley. So if you vacate that and there's no traffic going through there, so how is that gonna?
I don't want to presuppose what might be a future discretionary decision, but that will be part of a project that will be coming before Planning Commission at some future time. But the perimeter potentially will be secured, and it will not allow for public cross-through of vehicles. Only safety vehicles that need to access the space.
Okay. We have a question.
Mr. Cartosian, what is the main reason that the exact design or imagery of the murals is not presented to us at this point in time, and we're only being given a hypothetical location, size, etc.?
Well, the location is not hypothetical. The size will not be hypothetical, but
That's what I mean. That's what we're given.
Right.
This location and the size.
That's all you're given, correct.
That's right.
And I glossed over it earlier, but these are real-time creations by artists who, for lack of a better term, and I'm not making this up, they do not predetermine. They're willing to conform to guidelines that are being set hopefully tonight, but they will not give an exact replica or determination of what that will exactly look like. That's why we don't have it for you. And what we did do was provide a list, a very lengthy list of the artists that are the only artists that are being considered to be able to do that. So their backgrounds, we believe, are for the city and the world to check that they produce on a level that is not considered to be offensive. But it is very creative, and it is in real time, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
Yes.
So, first of all, I'll say that I'm a fan of murals. I take pictures of murals everywhere I travel. So I like the concept. But what is
Me too. Turn that.
my role here?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, sorry about that. My role here, I have to make a decision based on artwork I can't see, artwork that you don't know what the final result is going to look like, and there's certain standards here, for example, the obscenity standard, that might be judged at a later time. So you're willing to, the question is, you're willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and if there's a obscene element to the mural, then paint over that mural?
I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant, but I'm saying yes, that we're willing to conform to the standards that we hope will be set through a comprehensive mural program, with the understanding that it could, just like a conditional use permit might be issued to a business with an operation, it's conditionally given. And if those are found at a later point in time to be violated, then the loss of investment and maybe blood, sweat, and tears would be lost as well.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff, Mr.
The
Yeah,
applicant,
let's close this and then we can.
if you all approve this tonight with the conditions suggested, the applicant will be well aware of those conditions and has a responsibility for any artists that they hire to give those conditions to the artist. So the artist will also be aware of those conditions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
I
I'm gonna,
have a
oh, yes.
Somebody mentioned that there is 4 existing murals instead of 2. So do we have 2 existing?
No, they said for size, and 2 were permitted according to the portal.
So this did begin because of the existence of 2 dating, presupposing cities' determination. The applicant believed it was a First Amendment right to do so. We found out thereafter that the city would want to weigh in that process and agreed to halt those. That was not an easy decision, quite honestly. A number of artists have come in and out of town from all over the world, but the applicants decided to halt that to hopefully come through a conformed program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question for staff.
Okay.
So if they're meeting all these 6 conditions, if they're gonna be meeting all these 6, and we're not gonna be able to see what it's gonna look like, all we have is the location, what are we approving? I mean, are we just approving saying that you can go out and put a mural without knowing what it's gonna be? And I mean, why is it that we're in this position that, like Mr.
Yeah, why are
Church,
we
why are we even
looking at this?
I mean, why isn't staff just taking care of this, and because they're meeting all the 6 conditions? So
Well, our
and it's a
zoning code
first-
requires you to approve.
approve
mural.
what? Just the location?
No,
Well, and that's with the information you have, you will know the locations of the murals. You'll know the maximum sizes.
Okay.
You know, they could be smaller. They won't be any larger than what's shown.
Okay.
And you're basically you've got 6 standards that need to be met,
Okay.
and we've offered affirmative answers to those standards. You need to
Okay.
either concur or not concur.
All right. Okay.
If I
we,
could offer
yes.
a suggestion, I don't.
I think it
Work.
yeah.
If I could offer a suggestion, well, first of all, I just want to say, members of the DRB, you do have the 2 existing murals that you can certainly weigh in on. The remaining murals, although, I have to admit it is unusual that you don't know exactly what they're going to look like. There are some representative samples of what they might look like. Additionally, if the applicant agrees, a compromise solution could be you could review them after they've been installed for compliance with the conditions, maybe sort of like a return for redesign or some sort of a review afterwards. I don't know if that's procedurally possible, but there could be some sort of
Well, I
provision
think
made with
that's a good suggestion. I think right now we have 2 murals that are fact. We see them. We've seen them. We know what they look like, the size, the location, the color, the content. So we can make a more precise decision on those 2. Do we like them? Do we not like them? Do we think that they meet the 6 criteria? But honestly, approving an unknown, assuming what it's going to look like, so it's kind of a open-ended kind of an approval, and I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to the public. I don't know if it's fair, but for me, I'm fine with it. But it's just a lot of unknowns in the approval process. So, anyways, let's go ahead and begin, and let's go ahead, Mr. Bohan.
So I have a question actually to the city attorney, because I just realized something when I agree with the applicant, the building had changed dramatically. So in our packet, we didn't have like actual photos, or we did have some photos, but it's so different than what I remembered. I started my career in this building as an architect way back, like maybe 10, 12 years ago. I'm sure it's probably different owners, or so I'm not sure if I'm okay to comment, or do I need to recuse myself, or
I don't believe, just by what you've told me, that would,
okay.
unless you have a financial interest.
No,
live near the
I
area.
don't even think it's the same owners.
Okay.
But they passed some photographs that
Recognize.
I've recognized the building. Just looking at what we have in our packet, this is so different and it looks 10 times better than what it used to look like. So I give you guys that much. So in terms, I don't think I have any issues with the murals. I'm a fan. The only thing that I was concerned about is the safety fact, but it seems like the applicant is addressing that. So I don't have any issues with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too support staff's position on this in that we could approve it with the conditions as stated. And my approach is that we're in an IMU zone. This is an industrial zone. You know, the businesses that were occupying these zones are maybe not as viable. This area needs new businesses to come in, and the studios, et cetera, are a big part of that. And so we're getting these creative businesses that are coming in, and if we can't stomach some murals in an industrial zone, then I don't know what the issue is. What are you going to do? And so I believe that the strict, and I'm saying very strict guidelines that are presented here are going to be a good checks and balance to assure that what is ultimately put in there and what's put up will not be considered or will go against the guidelines as stated. So I think these are strict enough, and I support the project as stated by staff.
Thank you.
I'll go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I am a big supporter of murals, I think that they add a lot to industrial spaces, even residential, multi-unit projects, storefronts, and so forth. I have some grave reservations with this project. Number one, reservation is, as a design review, we really have no design to approve other than the two existing murals. Number one. Number two, there's a commercial element to this project that shouldn't be overlooked. And commercial speech is not the same as, First Amendment protected speech. There are ways to regulate commercial speech, and it is regulated in the city. That's why there's sign ordinances and requirements of the number of square feet of signage that any particular business can have. And I'm not familiar with many of the artists listed, but I did look. I was familiar with a couple of them, and a couple of these artists are very creative mural painters. Some might find some of their work to be macabre, Halloween-esque, skulls, bombs, bleeding hearts for Johnny Rodriguez, for example. But you also have two artists on this list, at least two artists on this list, that have full-on toy lines, right? One of them is Buff Monster, right? And so is that commercial speech? Is that commercial advertisement that is in direct contradiction to our sign ordinance that basically says if you're going to have signs and advertisement, there's certain rules and regulations for that. And so, yes, they might not have a telephone number, they might not have lettering that says Buff Monster outside, but the fan or the collector will see that, and are we now using mural space for advertisement? So I would be in support of murals, but I think we need to see these murals to understand if they are actually murals for artistic purposes, creative purposes, or if this is additional advertising space. Now, if it's an homage to the industry, that's also different. I mean, so there's a fine line here. I also understand the idea of free flow thinking, and they're going to just kind of go for it when they design. This is a very interesting concept. We would never approve a contractor that came in and said, I'm just going to kind of wing it when I go there. But we have certain concerns. So those two concerns are there. Now, as far as the existing, I would be in support of the mural that's not facing the residential area. I think that the dog / bunny / mural pictured here is a cool mural, and the only issue might be that it's in an alley that faces residential properties, and we have to look at that from the perspective of placement, not from a perspective of the design. So what I see here doesn't violate any of the 6 rules, so it should stay, for example, but is the placement appropriate on the alleyway, which faces residential homes, versus being relocated, for example, to the side, which is more of a commercial part of the property. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Ms. Sargent?
Yes, I agree, and I would just add, since the applicant agrees to potentially remove the murals, as that can be a condition that we all agree on, because we don't have any design, so we don't know what this is going to look like. So I don't feel comfortable.
So the ones that are going to be up,
The new ones.
the new
proposed.
ones.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe you're suggesting coming back, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, you're suggesting coming back to DRB after they're up?
If that's not right, if we can't see the designs before they're going to go up, an applicant is agreeing to remove them if, you have issues with that.
Okay,
That can be a
so,
condition.
I'm trying to understand the condition. So you're saying that go ahead and put the mural up.
I'm not saying that, but if we can't see the designs before they go up, I'm supportive of murals being up, but
Okay,
if they're not going to be
okay.
following these guidelines, let's say.
So then why don't we just allow staff to review or see what's there, and then if they think that it's not appropriate, then it comes back? Is that something, or do you want that? Because I don't think what he was saying, the applicant was saying that it's just going to be something on the fly. So they're going to go in and they're going to start creating their artistic imagination, and they're going to start painting away. So there's no rules in their head other than the 6 rules that we've given them to control. So that's the. So do you want them to? Do you want them to sketch it on a piece of paper what they're going to do and then bring that over
Sure,
to
yeah.
us?
That would be, if that's an option.
Mr. Chairman, can we clarify the comment is wanting me to clarify something with staff, if I may. Would it be code enforcement? The question to staff is, would it be code enforcement that would go out and check if there's a complaint of obscenity?
Correct.
But it won't be a code enforcement because you guys are checking. You guys are going to have to get a sign off, right?
If
So they
the
won't
mural was installed and there was a complaint, a neighbor complained or someone complained,
Right.
we would send a code enforcement officer out.
But what I think your question is, Mr. Malikian, this is not any different than, let's say, a regular case where somebody comes in, proposes wood windows or
Right.
whatnot, and then during the framing and during construction,
They
somebody
change it.
from staff goes and checks to see if there were wood windows installed or vinyl windows. And if there were vinyl windows, at that point, you basically put them on notice saying you either make it a wood window or you got to go back to DRB. So that could be a possible solution in that staff does a final, I'm kind of putting words in your mouth, but as a condition I could see as a working in that staff would do a final walkthrough after the murals are up. If they seem offensive or if they don't meet the 6 guidelines, then it's up to staff to
Send them
back.
Yeah, because there's an open application and there's an open DRB. They need to get a sign off. So until the staff signs off, unless they sign off and then next day they go back and they put their, they add more,
But then they can do that anyway.
they can do that. So let me just do my thoughts and then we can go ahead and move on. So I think this is one of the most unique cases that I've seen in a very long time that has come in front of us, and it's bringing a lot of different points of views and a lot of different opinions. So I think we are we're in a position that we have a chance to approve an art form. If this 6 conditions were not in place, and it would be considered as a graffiti. And a graffiti, anybody can go and put a graffiti up. Obviously, they'll be in a violation, but until they're painted over or they're brought to front of any kind of a jurisdiction that they have to review, they will stay up. Right now, we have the opportunity to make conditions and control this graffiti, so-called graffiti, or mural, and make this a more fitted design or an art piece that fits within the conditions that the applicant has brought in. So for me, it's kind of a vague approval because I'm just approving the location, and I know something is going to go there. I don't know what this imagination, the artist's imagination, is going to be bringing in. I think it's an exciting opportunity for all of us. I'm kind of hesitant in one sense that, is this going to start a trickling of graffitis popping up everywhere within the city, knowing that, what are the restrictions, and people, some young kids are going to see, oh my God, look at this, maybe we should go down the street and start doing the same thing over and over again. So that's one of my concerns that I have. The second concern that I have is the safety, which to me, I don't know what it's going to go there. If it's going to be a bright neon yellow or orange, something that it's reflective color that at night the light is going to shine, I don't know. So theoretically, the 6 conditions that is brought in front of us, they're meeting every condition that it's there. So for us to kind of assume what if this will happen and what if that will happen, I think it's for me it's going to be incorrect for me to assume that would be the situation, and for me not to accept what is in front of us. So right now what we have is we have this 4, 5, 6 areas, and we do have the 2, and I'm glad that applicant came up and discussed about the abandoning of the alley. I don't know if it is true or not, if it's going to happen or not, but they are aware of this, and by this public dais, I think they've been placed on notice that this mural should not be a condition that will cause an accident or other adverse area conditions within the alleyway. So for now, I think I want to go through the conditions, and we don't have to go through them. It's actually 4 of them. So I would like to get a motion, and if you want to go ahead and get this thing out of the way, and we can move
I
on.
will try to put a motion forward, and if it doesn't work, we'll recircle, see if we could add some more language. I move to approve the condition with staff's conditions as stated. It's right here.
It's 4 of them, so.
Well, in your discussion there, I thought I heard, and perhaps I'm wrong, there was a mention of the mural facing the alley. I thought I heard from Mr. Charchin, being treated differently.
Mike, the motion that I'm putting forward is specifically an approval of this project with only the 4 conditions that are stated on your staff report.
I understand. 6 standards.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the project with the conditions in the staff report. Do we have a second?
Second? Anyone? Second? No second? Only the 4 conditions?
I think I can second it if we add a couple of conditions to it.
Okay. So if.
Which
if
is
Mr.
one
Simoleon can,
one dealing with the safety and one to go through staff review and make sure that it meets the 6 conditions at that point.
I think that's given, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we would, that's
So
our job.
staff's review is basically then we're adding the extra condition as stated by the other board members?
If I can suggest that it would be good to add the staff review condition, because there's no permit required to paint these, so there's no mechanism through the permitting that requires an inspection. So
Perfect.
if it were a condition, I
Let's
think
do that.
would make it clear.
And do you want to then now go over that condition then? That whatever you.
I defer to the board.
I guess so, because we're adding a condition, so it'd be good to know what we're adding.
Oh, well, that condition would be that you were approving the
Oh, I see. I think
4
what was
conditions, and
stated
staff
is
will inspect after we're alerted by the owner or the applicant
that all the,
that all are completed, and will verify that the murals painted conform to the 6 conditions. With any other, if there's any other discussion, we'd apply further.
okay, I'll move to approve the project with the 4 staff conditions plus the 5th condition as stated.
Do we want to add anything for safety? So they take in consideration that fact as well.
Sure. Do you want to add some language?
I think I would like to add a condition if the, as stated by the applicant, if the alley abandonment is not going to take place, then we need to decide if we want to paint over the alley side mural, or what do we want to do? I mean, do we want to, I mean, that's the only thing, so. And I hate to remove an art piece, so that's my
Mr.
concern.
Chair, I believe that because the position of that alley art piece is across from a parking lot that is also owned by applicant,
Correct.
that there might be a way of shielding using landscaping on that other parcel to address some of those concerns. I just thought of that as we were sitting.
Okay, well, maybe that may be,
It is a design review.
I don't know if we can actually add a landscaping.
Staff did look at the concept of a landscape, visual buffer for landscaping from adjacent neighbors, and I think there are 2 neighbors who are primarily affected, one directly across the alley and one kind of catacorner to the other side of the street. And where the existing landscape, the parking lot configuration plus the existing landscape areas, it looked like it would be hard to interrupt the view corridor.
I'm going to have the applicant come out for one. Yes, please. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and if you can just add to that.
Right.
Just
Thank you. Just
quickly add.
the clarification is there are trees that have already been planted. They are not mature enough yet to fully block that visibility, that line of sight
Okay.
between the residential and the subject property. I've been told by the general contractor within a year, we believe that they should be more mature to block that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while the applicant's there, can I just ask on this picture where this mural is? Will you
Can I approach?
Yes.
I
If that's
feel
okay,
like I'm in
'cause
court.
There's no picture of it, where the mural is. on
It's
these
right
pictures.
there.
No, there's that, but where is it?
I mean, that
It's
the
this.
pole is right here. So, light pole is right here, so it's right there.
No, I understand, but we didn't have a picture of it.
Can we get a alley or view shot? But what is the question? Is there a specific question?
Is there a picture that you submitted of the actual artwork, or were these pictures taken before the artwork was up?
I'm gonna come here.
These pictures that you've submitted,
Submitted, some are.
are these pictures that you've?
These are older.
These are before, these are before the project was, before the artwork is up.
Right, these,
Okay.
a lot of
Okay.
that
That's fine.
grading is no longer existing.
Thank you.
Just to, can I address,
No, that's.
you had
it.
asked
We're-
about the public alleyway. I just want to confirm,
Okay.
staff person who can confirm
Okay.
that at City Hall.
Okay,
Her name is, well, I'll provide it to you, but I can provide.
Well, that's gonna be a condition you deal with staff, so,
But we didn't materialize any information we're sharing here.
that's fine.
And we're going on the record, obviously.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect, thank you.
This,
So,
this is a view from Allen Avenue, looking toward
yeah,
Victory and the alley right here.
Right.
It's hard to see.
So there is a landscape buffer between the fence and where the cars are parked from my view of that.
so as,
It's better viewed in the TV.
so as the applicant said, that there may mature within a, so we may wanna, if that alley abandonment doesn't happen, or, traffic issue is not happening, then we may wanna expedite the growth of these trees.
Fertilize?
I don't know.
Bamboo?
Figure out a
The
way
tree-
to grow.
The trees have been planted, the landscaping has
So
been
you may
planted.
want to consider replanting some larger mature trees or something. No, sorry, the public session is closed. Sorry, the public session is closed, sir. Sir, the public session is closed.
There are no trees.
The public session is closed. So we'll just put that condition, you guys deal with it.
So
The
what's the
expedited
condition?
growth condition?
Yes. You guys
Well,
do miracles.
well, it'll be the
No, I
miracle
mean,
grow
what I'm
condition,
trying to
yeah.
say is, that if there are any trees that are planted, and it's gonna take a year, and if this alley abandonment is not gonna happen shortly within the period of the rest of the murals that go up, if that doesn't happen, then the alternative would be is to replace a portion of that planting so that it will cover in a larger, mature trees, taller trees,
Hedge, shrub, whatever.
shrub or whatever.
I can second that motion then.
Is that fair? Everybody's happy?
Yep.
Everybody's happy? Good.
Well, I brought a motion forward. Mr. Bellion has seconded it, so let's see where we end up.
Okay, motion was made to approve the project with the conditions in the staff report, along with two additional conditions about staff inspecting the murals after installation, as well as if the alley abandonment doesn't take place, that additional landscape planting or new landscape planting that is more mature, that can mask that area, that landscaping be installed.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so this will be a roll call. Mr. Simonian,
Yes.
Mr. Benlian,
Yes.
Ms. Arzumanian,
Yes.
Mr. Charchian,
No.
and Mr. Maliki.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Okay. Are you ready?
These are the staff conditions.
Oh, that's a good point. Jay?
Yeah.
Mr. Charchin brought up a good point. If the previous case ends up coming back, we didn't notify the public for them to be able to fill out a card and for them to be notified again. So So is it something that it's going to be publicly a notice is going to go out?
It's an approval with conditions.
Okay.
So there's no mechanism for public
Okay.
notification. It would only come back if they don't fulfill the conditions.
And if it comes back, then would they have to go through the design review process again? They have to file and they have to submit a set of applications?
Yeah, for example, I think if we went out and inspected the site and said, we do not believe this mural conforms to the 6 standards that we have, your options are to paint that over, or we can bring it back to the board for the board to deliberate over.
Okay. Thank you. So, are we ready?
I am, yep.
Let's begin.
Good evening and thank you. This is DRB case number PDR 1709584 for the project site located at 2050 Bel Air Drive. The applicant is Arthur Israelian. The proposal is to construct a new 2-story, 2,037 square foot single-family house with a detached 2-car garage at the rear on a lot zoned R1. The new house will include a 1,328 square foot first floor and a 709 square foot second floor. The project site is an existing 7,036 square foot lot with frontage on Bel Air Drive. It's rectangular in shape and features a downhill slope with approximately 8-foot grade difference from the street to the rear of the lot. Currently, the site features a swimming pool that was originally built in 1983 and a metal fence along the front property line that was originally built for the adjacent house at 2056 Bel Air Drive. The swimming pool and metal fence will be removed as part of the project proposal. In terms of site planning, the new house is centrally sited on the lot in such a way as to address zoning regulations. The proposed 25-foot street front setback is shallower than the consistent setbacks you see for the houses that are to the east of the lot. Staff is recommending a condition of approval to increase the proposed setback in order to achieve a more consistent appearance with that portion of that side of the street. The new detached 2-car garage is located at the rear of the property and will be accessed via a new 9-foot driveway from Bel Air Drive. This is consistent with the predominant neighborhood pattern, which features detached garages at the rear. The drawings indicate the new driveway will be concrete. No information is provided as to what that will look like. Staff is recommending a condition that the new driveway be decorative and that consideration be given to the use of a permeable paver. The project features drought-tolerant landscaping that's compatible with the proposed style of the house. The site plan and the landscape plan are inconsistent with one another as far as locations of hardscape, specifically to the south, I believe, southeast elevation. So staff is recommending a condition of approval that the drawings be revised to be more consistent, and the design shown on the site plan would be the more appropriate design. As it relates to mass and scale, with the exception of the 2 directly adjacent properties, the neighborhood pattern features 1-story homes that range in size from 1,012 square feet to 1,731 square feet. The property to the right at 2040 Bel Air Drive is 2 stories and 2,009 square feet in size. And the property to the left at 2056 Bel Air Drive is also 2 stories and is 3,510 square feet in size. As such, the applicant's proposal to build a new 2-story house that's 2,037 square feet in size between these 2 existing larger houses is appropriate based off that immediate context. Because of the downhill nature of the lot, as seen from different elevations, the height will range from 23 feet 5 inches, which is what you would experience from Bel Air Drive, to 26 feet.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
We'll
to 26 feet 7 inches as seen from the rear. The maximum height that's allowed in this zone would be 28 feet for a house that features a pitched roof. The massing of the house is broken up by changes in facade planes and stepping the new second floor in from the first floor, and that's seen primarily from the street front elevation. The rear features primarily 2-story volumes that are broken up through the use of balconies. And despite the somewhat limited step backs at some of the second floor facades, the project does appear consistent with the massing of adjacent buildings. The first floor features gable and shed roof forms, and the second floor and detached garage feature a hipped roof design with a 3 and 12 pitch, and the hipped roof design does help with the massing. In terms of architectural detailing, the entryway is well integrated into the overall building design and features a new covered porch with arched openings. The front door and skylight will be wood with partial glazing and wrought iron detailing that's consistent with the proposed Spanish Revival style. The new windows will be clear glass, brown, fiberglass material, and recessed in the wall openings with wood frames and sills that will be painted brown to match the color of the windows. And they will be a combination of casement, awning, and fixed windows with wrought iron grille detailing proposed on some of the fixed windows located on the second floor. The configuration, material, and finish of the windows is complementary and appropriate to the proposed style. The materials for the house and garage feature a smooth stucco finish, wood gates, and decorative wrought iron guardrails that are also consistent with the style. The roof tile proposed, as it shows on, I think it's sheet MB1, is a one-piece S tile rather than the two-piece tile that's noted on the drawings. Staff is recommending a condition that calls for the use of the two-piece tile to better reflect the Spanish style of the house. The roof at the central section of the side facades, it's depicted as being too high on the wall rather than at the 10-foot plate height, and this creates an unnecessary sense of height on that elevation. Staff recommends a condition that these areas be revised to reflect the proposed plate height. And the window bays on the second floor at the front and left facades, they feature a somewhat awkward design. Staff recommends a condition to revise these features by either eliminating the arch at the bottom or by increasing the number of arches and corbels to better reflect the style. Staff is recommending approval of the project with conditions as noted in the staff report. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff? All right. I'm going to open up the. You don't have any cards.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I did receive one letter.
Yes.
It is before you guys. It's from the neighbor directly adjacent at 2040 Bel Air Drive. And their concerns are privacy, the two-story design,
Yes.
as well as construction, noise, and dirt.
2040 is, if you're looking at the house, it's on the left side. Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Is the applicant here? I mean,
He is, yes.
we need a card. We need to fill out a card. Yeah, thank you.
You could fill it out later. You could state your name for the record and then turn a card in later.
I'm Arthur Israelian, designer of this project. Have any questions?
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No.
I have a question. The adjacent, the house to the east, how far back does it sit from the face of your building, the proposed building, which is grid line 10? If you measure that, how far back does it go as part of the condition for staff is condition? I don't have a scale, so I don't know what it is. Do you understand my question?
The adjacent building.
This distance from here to here.
Looks close to 15 feet.
It's about maybe 15 feet, you're right. We have a setback 6 feet plus maybe driveway over there 9 feet.
Yeah, it looks like 15.
It's
Okay. I have one more question. So is the proposal, which is the proposed, is this, are you proposing to have a walkway here and landscaping here?
landscaping.
So the landscape architect didn't show any kind of a landscape. All he's showing is that all through here. Is it, this is the correct one, or is it the landscape drawing?
Our, this one, some.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question also. The second floor balconies in the back, do they look to the property next door? Like, what are they looking at? Is that the backyard?
It depends how you stand. Yeah, it's looking to the back of the property.
To the back.
Yeah. If you directly go to the from the door, it's the back.
Thank you.
We don't have direct to the left or right.
Thank you. Thank you. Sally Spalding. Sally Spalding. No one. Ralph Velasco.
Good evening now. I'm Ralph Velasco, 1406 Lee Drive. I did go around the neighborhood asking people what they thought of the project. I do have signatures, people. I and the neighborhood residents oppose this proposed construction because the house on 2056 Bel Air Drive will lose its historical beauty, having the structure crammed in next to it. I've looked at the scale, and there's no room for a 9-foot driveway there, unless the scale model is not built to scale. That picture you see does not show the scale model that's up with the flags and the whole thing. The new structure will disturb the classic scenic flow of the beautiful homes that were built in the neighborhood with quality, character, and craftsmanship. It's always a challenge for you guys to blend in the old with the new without disturbing the scenic view, the charm of the neighborhood. Please note that your posted sign, the billboard says the lot size is 7,036 square feet. I'll include a document on this package I'll give you that the property profile says the lot size is 6,700 square feet. So somewhere somebody hasn't updated their database, but something for you to check on. And let us respect the care for one of Glendale's historical gems. Perhaps it's not on a historical site yet, but it should be. It was built in 1901, and it's been cared for that long. One trend in Glendale seems to be buy it, remodel it, regardless if the houses aesthetically flow with the rest of the homes without regard to the neighborhood and its neighbors. So the neighbors signing below are displaying their opposition to this proposed construction at 2050 Bel Air Drive. Would you like to have the signatures? Or?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Dennis. I'm not going to destroy your last name, so I'll let you.
Sorry, that's probably my writing, which is not very good. My name is Dennis Fasquelle. I am the neighbor, 2056 Bel Air Drive. I've been living there with my wife for about a little bit over a year now.
You're at the corner, sir?
I'm the blue house next to it, the historical house that was built in 1901. Yeah, it was yellow and apparently before, but when we bought the house, it was blue. Anyway, we really care about our house. We are spending quite a fair amount of money to make sure the house stays up. We've redone all the foundations last year. We're doing quite a bit of redecoration inside without changing the character of the house. Anyway, what I wanted to share, is my worry about having a two-floor house right next to me, where if there's a 9-foot driveway, I couldn't figure this out also because I keep going there and say, okay, how does it fit, the driveway? Given the poles which are here at the moment. And then we have a wall that separates the two property, and our house is 3 feet away from the wall. So basically, we're going to have a lot less light in our kitchen, living room, when the house is up, because it's going so high in front of us. I heard some of the recommendations from the planning commission was maybe to put the house a little backwards because it's a little bit too front, and it's not going to be aligned with the other houses, which I think would be probably a very good suggestion. And I have a little concern so with the electricity cable that supplies our house, which comes across that property, the neighbor's property, and I understand that the cable is going to be an issue because of the roof of the garage. There should be 8-foot clearance between the top of the roof and the cable, and based on my calculation, there will be only 5 or 6 foot clearance between the roof and the cable, so I don't know what's going to happen to our electricity supply. I was at the Glendale Power and Water yesterday, and the engineer told me this is an issue we raised and that was probably forwarded in the comments in the file. I mean, that was all for me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to come back and state any comments or anything, or no? Okay. Public session is closed. So I have a question for staff. The 9-foot width that it's showing as a driveway, it's from the property line.
It's as shown, and I actually, when I went out to do the story pulling, on the drawings, I believe it starts from the property line. When I went out to measure or to view the story pole inspection, I actually measured it because I thought it looked like it wasn't 9 feet. Based off my measurement, which, I didn't have measuring tape with me, I used sheets of paper pretty much and lined them up next to each other, unfortunately. But it was actually accurate at 9 feet.
So my question is, when we say minimum driveway width of 9 feet.
9
correct?
feet clear.
Okay, that's 9 foot clear. Right now, we're showing a 9 foot from the property line. And
Correct.
based on the section that he has at the bottom, he has a retaining wall, which is retaining the adjacent property. So the 9 foot is going to be measured from the face of the retaining wall, correct? Not from the property line.
Correct.
So if there's let's say 6 to 10 inch or 12 inches of whatever it is.
They would have to shift a wall.
They just have to shift the wall.
Yes.
Okay.
And we would verify that during the plan check process.
Got it. Okay. That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this letter
Yes.
that we've received, I want to clarify, is it from the 2040 neighbor?
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Costa live at 2040.
And they couldn't make it tonight, but they sent,
Correct.
oh, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Simonian, would you like to?
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, can we have maybe Jay address the historic
Sure.
part that came up
Sure.
with multiple people?
Yeah, the house to the right, the 1901 early kind of farmhouse, is not designated right now. I've spoken with the owner. He may be interested in a designation. The presence of a house next door to it on a legal lot will not diminish the historic character of the house or its eligibility for designation, even if some people find it unfortunate or kind of a change in the streetscape. It breaks my heart to think that that beautiful old wire fence in front of the current project can't be saved or reused according to our zoning code. The wire fence in front of the house has actually been granted, and I just learned this yesterday, so I'm not sure what the mechanism is exactly, but it's been, I believe it may be legal, so if that house were designated, it could keep its wire fence in front of it, but the wire fence obviously in front of this house would be going away.
So from your opinion as, I mean,
Preservation
you're probably the most knowledgeable when it comes to this among all of us. So do you think this design will affect that house if it was designated later on as a historical
It's going to
house?
change the way the street looks. It's going to change the context of the block, obviously. But the presence of the house in it, even in this current design or any other design, isn't going to make the older house not eligible for Glendale Register designation. So under the state environmental law, it's not going to have an adverse impact.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Simone?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking over the design and current layout, some of the same thoughts that were brought forward by some of the speakers about the width of the house and how it fits in was something that had popped up in my mind. At first, I was under the perception that the lot was narrower than 50 feet, but then when I checked into it, it was actually 54 feet, which is 4 feet wider than the typical smaller lot. And so, of course, we get into how much of the house was kind of packed into this lot and how wide is it, and whether the setback and the driveways as bare minimums are appropriate. So that was one item that was kind of sticking out in my mind. Second was, it seems as though the scale and mass of the building from the street seemed more appropriate than the scale and mass of the house as seen from the rear. And so the balconies, the two balconies at the rear, especially the one that's closer to the historic home, with its framed out roof, etc., was creating a lot of mass and bulk. And that was in addition to kind of a sloping site that slopes already southbound. And so the building height that was being added onto by the sloping site, in addition to the two balconies that were actually, one of which was framed quite massively, was adding to that mass. So I think overall my perception is that the front of the house is appropriate as so far as the mass and the scale is concerned. However, I do think staff's recommendation of increasing the setback will certainly create more of a buffer between itself and the street, and also could probably help out the corner house as well. I do think it's a bit wide. I think Mr. Malakian had caught the same thing that you had caught as far as the width of the block wall and the retaining wall and how that's going to affect the 9-foot clearance. And I think we're just trying to really split hairs here, where the house could really benefit by maybe 2 feet or whatever it is, shrinking on its width. But most certainly at the rear, I think the height of the house could be reduced. I would suggest getting rid of the roof over the balcony, because I think that's creating a lot of mass and bulk. And the side elevation, some of the windows, more specifically, these areas seem somewhat obscure. We just have these shapes, although the facade is undulated, but then the placement of the windows, when we start seeing these kind of shapes with the offset of windows, are a bit odd. there's some work to be done, both in scale, mass, height, and also placement of windows.
Mr. Arjamani?
Could I just clarify one thing? You had said the staff condition about the setbacks, and the staff condition for the setbacks is about the front setback.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and then you also want to bring in the side setbacks.
As an additional thought I'm bringing forward.
Okay.
I don't have any additional comments. I think the staff conditions are appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Charcher?
Thank you. I'm going to join Mr. Simonian in basically every single comment that you made. It was almost like you were reading my mind. I would support this, a condition that would reduce the width of the house by about 2 feet. I think that would fix a lot of the massing issues. And your comment about the massing over the balcony of the master bedroom, I think is very appropriate. The rear, because of the fact that it has a sloped contour, creates way too much mass in the back, and that needs to be addressed. There's some other matters, but they're minor, so I'm sure staff will deal with those through the building process.
Thank you.
I think we're all on the same page today, so. When I first looked at this project and I saw the rear, it looked to me like too massive that I had to go back to the report and double check the square footage. I thought that this looks like a way bigger house than, when you look at the renderings in the back, I don't know how accurate they are, but it looked way more massive than 2,000 square feet. And 2,000 square feet is very modest in today's standard. So I would agree with Mr. Simonian and Mr. Charchian that some work need to happen in the back, maybe remove that, maybe reduce the size of the balconies, get rid of that cover roof area, and I also agree. I think that just to be more sensitive to the neighbor, making the house narrow, since we have the room in the back, to reduce it like few feet in the width and just add that square footage towards the back. I mean, the room is there. And I think staff did a very good job in detailing a lot of conditions that I think all of them are appropriate. So I would support the project with the conditions stated and a couple additional conditions that we spoke about.
Thank you. I concur. I think I would add one more condition, that the landscape plan should be updated according to what the site plan has been proposed with the landscape along the building side, on the east side. So other than that, and the setback on the side that would allow the appropriate 9-foot clear, that would be from the face of the retaining wall. Can we have a motion, please?
Go for it. I move to approve the project with staff's conditions and the additional condition as stated by Mr. Malakian.
I'll second that.
Any readback of the conditions?
It's pretty
Okay.
clear.
Pretty clear. I think we're all on the same page.
Can we have, I'd like to just add one thing to the mix here. Just want to go back to the comment that was made and the document that was shown to us that indicated that the total square footage of the lot was 67 and change versus 7,036. So let's just have staff verify that.
I did. I'm not sure where that number comes from, but based
Which
off
number?
the 67.
Because there's a
print.
survey done by a licensed surveyor.
There is a survey, and I verified the property dimensions again during the public comment period, and the math is 7,036.2 if you want to get that specific.
Yeah, that number comes from title report printout. So
So, we're not doing a read back of the conditions, okay. Board Member Arzumanian,
Yes.
Board Member Benlian,
Yes.
Board Member Charchian, Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
and Chair Malikian.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready for Cedar? Oh.
Okay, Cedar?
Hmm?
Cedar.
Y'all ready for me to start?
Yes, please.
All right, good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the Design Review Board. The next item before you this evening is case number PDR 1710715. It's a review of a proposal to construct an 830 square foot second story addition to an existing one story 1,830 square foot single family residence in the R1 zone with a floor area ratio of District 2. The project also includes installation of an in-ground swimming pool and is located at 1213 North Cedar. Let me pull the plans up. All right. The site is approximately 7,228 square feet, rectangular in shape, and slopes slightly down from Cedar Street to the rear yard. The proposed second-story addition is located at the rear of the residence. A bedroom and a small balcony will be located in the southern part of the proposed addition. While a bedroom and balcony of this size do not pose privacy concerns pursuant to the city zoning ordinance, staff is recommending a condition to install plant material along the southern boundary of the subject site such that a visual buffer will be created between the two properties. Do you want me to go over that on the site plan? Are you clear?
Can you do that?
Sure. What I'm referring to is this area right here. The second floor right here. There's a bedroom with a little balcony here, and it's right adjacent to this residence. While it does not, it's not a privacy issue related to what our code states. Staff is suggesting planting material, planting plants in this area here that sort of are tall and thin, so that there can be a buffering between the two properties. So that's what that condition references, just this area here. Staff believes that the site planning for the project is appropriate because it does not change significantly and is consistent with the neighborhood. And the front 25-foot setback is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and will be maintained. So there's no change to the front yard setback. The mass and scale of the proposed project is appropriate because the second story is set back significantly from the street. The scale of the existing Spanish-style residence, including its tower element and large front picture window and the covered colonnade, remain intact. Those aren't changing. And the second floor addition is well integrated into the house, into the existing house. Given that there is a slight slope on the lot, the rear elevation appears as 3 stories. However, this will not be visible from the street. Staff, however, does recommend a condition be added to the approval of the project for the roof plan to be simplified so that it is more consistent with the Spanish architecture of the existing residence. Finally, design and detailing. Staff believes that the design and detailing of the project is appropriate as the front of the residence maintains the character-defining features of a Spanish-style home. The main entry to the house is maintained. The building material includes dark brown fiberglass windows and 2-piece barrel tile, which is appropriate and consistent with the Spanish style. And the new second story integrates well with the existing residence. As previously mentioned, staff recommends a condition of approval that plant material be installed along the southern boundary line to provide a visual buffer between the subject property and the property to the south. And we're also suggesting a consideration to simplify the roof design. Staff also recommends a condition to add downspouts to a revised elevation drawing for staff approval, and that the board consider a less ornate railing design for the 2 balconies located at the rear of the site, rear of the residence, I should say. There were 2 comment letters on your desks this afternoon, both, I believe, in opposition to the project. The only other thing I want to mention is the plans erroneously, and I'm trying to find the letter, the plans erroneously stated that there aren't any protected trees on the site. There actually, according to our urban forester, there is a protected tree in the front yard. He doesn't feel that the project will negatively impact that tree. So in the permitting process of the application of the project, he will add statements such as there needs to be a barrier around the tree, no storage of building material under the tree canopy, that sort of thing. But I did want to mention that to you since the plans state that there aren't any protected trees on the site, which is not accurate. That concludes what I have to say. Do you have any questions?
We have a question.
I'm sorry?
We have a question.
Oh, okay.
Shikizo, we have 2 floor plans up. The building sections do indicate a basement level.
Right.
I'm unable to locate that floor plan. And my question is, do you have those floor plans?
We don't have the basement floor plans. The applicant and I discussed on several occasions, it's an existing basement. It's less than 6 feet in height, and thus it's not considered a story under our code. I don't know the size of it. There is no access from the house. It's just from the rear yard, I believe.
But the way it's proposed, it seems to have a clearance at least of 7-8 feet. In fact, the windows on the south elevation indicate full-size windows, so they seem to be more than 6 feet. Is that elevation being raised?
There's a section, A9, sheet A9.
Yeah.
That shows floor height to the underside of the joist to be 5 to 10.
And so this window that's being created on the south elevation is I guess, based on what you're saying, because it's the same size window as,
It's
seems to be
actually
about a
there.
5-foot window.
I want to say, and we can clarify with the applicant, it was my understanding they're not touching the basement area.
Well, I mean, let's look at this image right here that shows the doors. These certainly look like full-size doors going into a space. They don't seem to be little, shrunk, custom 6-foot doors. They seem to be 6'8" doors. And so, either they're digging. It doesn't seem like they're digging. It seems like they're going up because the sill of the door is in line with grade.
As shown on the drawings, the height is 5'10". They're well aware that if they go 6 feet or above, that's considered a story, and in this area, a 3-story house isn't allowed.
Then I'm going to follow up with another question, and pardon the redundancy because I was out for a minute. What's existing now, as far as you could tell?
The existing is, well, actually, I did not put these up, but I can put up the existing elevations. It's a 1-story house with a basement.
Got it. But we don't know if the clearance or the height, etc. But are they keeping the floor, the ceiling rafters of that basement space in the same height as it is today?
My understanding is there's no work taking place in the basement.
Mr. Simone, A6 has the existing elevations.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. The reduced elevations, I think, have actually the existing floor plan as well as the existing elevations in the plan. I just didn't place a large existing exhibits on the board.
I got no more questions. It just seems like it's more than 5'10".
So there's nothing here indicating any improvements being proposed to the existing garage? There's nothing here that it's shown that they're going to do anything to the existing garage, is there?
I don't believe so, no.
So they're going to have a flat roof. There's no information on the garage itself, so everything is going to stay as it is.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, I have one question. Mr. Kiesel, the driveway cover portico shade, it looks like they're changing the roof form there. Is that in the renderings, the roof form over the portico area is cut? It looks like it is a step down, but in the picture there is no step down on the existing property. Is that just an error, or?
I think that's an error in the renderings. I think the elevation, they're not changing the portico sherry.
And they're not touching the tile or anything on that front?
No, the addition is all taking place in the flat roof portion of the house, of the existing house.
They're going to try to match.
And my last question that I was going to ask you, right now the height is below 20 feet.
Correct.
So the existing non-conforming condition, portico share, everything is existing grandfather.
Right.
Once they add the second floor to this, is the portico share going to become a non-conforming condition that they need to address?
No, there are provisions in our code that an existing portico share that's legally there can be maintained.
Okay, so even though the height is increasing, the setback does not impact the portico share?
It would not impact the portico share.
Thank you. Okay, we only have one card. Mike Moradian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, staff members. And as I mentioned, I'm Mike Mekhitar Moradian, and I'm a molecular geneticist working for Kaiser Permanente. I have lived only in Glendale in the United States for a long time, and Glendale is my home. It's our home. We moved to this house in 2008. We love this house. We love this neighborhood. I'm not a big fan of construction, so at some point I thought maybe we need more space, perhaps expanding our family. We may sell this and move to a bigger house. And it turned out to be with a very serious resistance from my wife, who's actually watching me right now, not to say anything wrong. And it was either divorcing or staying there, so I chose to stay and go with the construction. We couldn't do the front because I guess it was not possible. Planners told us that that's not possible. So in the back, there's no room, so we had to go up. I just want to tell you that we consider this our neighborhood. Our neighbors are extremely nice people. We're nice to them. We love them. In fact, they helped us put the design review board up on the front because I'm not a very construction-oriented person. The house next door is a two-story house with the same, pretty much same conditions, same slope and all that. And the street is almost half of the street is two-story, mostly towards the north of the street rather than south. However, two houses down and up, there are two-story houses. So we considered all that before we actually had the plan from our design to put together that we are really not going to impact anything in the neighborhood, and we're just going to enjoy it, raise our family there, and be a good part of the community. And I thank you for your time considering this. Thank you.
We don't have any more cards, so yes.
Oh, there was no designer or any. I wanted to ask a question about the basement, if I may.
Can you, one or the other, we need a card from you. With 2 cards. So
While Art's walking up,
Do you rather, as the owner, come up to answer?
while Art's coming up, I did want to make sure I let you know we had 2 letters in opposition to the project, and they're on your desks. One was related to parking, and one was a height privacy issue.
And the height privacy issues from a next door neighbor or someone?
I believe it's from a neighbor who lives behind on Everett.
Your name for the record?
Arthur Israelan, I'm designer of this project.
And I'm asking these questions because we don't want you to get stuck in the building and safety process. When you're going through plan check and you have that space that's not, let's say, 5'10" or whatnot, and you're going through inspections during construction, then they're going to make you come back to us again, and you're going to go through this whole process again. And so I'm bringing this up now to understand. The basement that's depicted on sheet A6,
right.
Are you going to be touching the roof rafters of that space? Are you going to raise them?
No.
It's going to stay at the same elevation.
It's going to stay on the same level.
Okay. And the clearance of that space is 5'10". Are you certain about that?
Actually, when I started this project, I asked quite a couple times. We measured it. I knew what kind of problems will we have it. Yeah, it's less than 6 foot. It's basement area.
And the elevation that you're indicating, the rear elevation with the doors on either side of that basement, visually it seems as though that basement is a higher ceiling than a 5'10", because 5'10" is something you would see in a dollhouse, right? Very, very small.
If you compare with the window 4 feet, it's not so big. It's about 5 feet the doors. It's like the.
So in scale, they're about a 5-foot
Right.
door.
They actually, Mr. Simonian, if you look at this, it's clear here. They look like they're short doors. If you look at the width and the height, the proportion is just not right.
Yeah, the proportion is not right. Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have no other questions. Thank you.
We need to make sure you fill out cards for both projects. So, okay, Mr. Churchill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm in support of the project. When I first looked at the packet, I was concerned because of the location of the property. The street is a very unique street, and I was happy to see that this is a very minimal second-story addition from the street's facade, from the street side. And then I had lots of reservations about the back, but when you dug deeper and saw that it was actually built over a raised basement, kind of like a half-floor basement in the back, that kind of explained the massive rear elevation. And given that it's in the rear and given that the exposure from the front is minimized, I can be in support of the project. The only piece, and I think this is a staff condition, is the rails on those balconies don't seem fitting to the design of the Spanish style. And I would suggest that the applicant consider an alternative, maybe something more traditional, wood slats that's Spanish, or other examples are in the neighborhood, more appropriate balcony treatments, and that might actually also address the concern of the privacy if you use like a wood slat, traditional Spanish balcony design. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Ms. Arzuman?
I'm in support of the project with the given conditions, and I second what Mr. Charcher said. Any other comments?
Mr. Benyon?
I think it's a well done, well executed design with that's a moderate. It's a moderate second edition, and we normally don't see those. We see when they try to add a second floor, you see like a huge impact on the front. So I appreciate the fact that the second floor is set back substantially to alleviate some of that, the mass in the front. I agree with Mr. Charshin. I think the back looked a little massive, but I guess you can do nothing about that, the existing basement. So I'm in support, and I think staff has a consideration about simplifying the roof design. I'm in support of that, and changing the railing as well. I think I'm in support of that as well.
Mr. Moore?
I support the project as well. In fact, as I was looking over the black and white elevations, the black and white elevations actually have a lot more of intricate details and charm than the renderings do. So they're quite nice in that, he's got fiberglass windows, he's got wood sills, he actually has exposed wood rafters, he's got recessed windows, and he's got these Spanish details like above the bay window in the front entry, etc. All those are very nice. It's just that the renderings, it's all kind of blended all together with the white paint, and you can't really see the details. For example, the column caps on the porte-cochere, etc., are more defined in the black and white elevations as to the color rendering. So it seems as though it's well designed. I support all the conditions that have been stated in addition to what staff had, and I think it'd be nice if we followed along the black and white elevations, obviously, because the level of detail in there is quite nice and it's quite thought out.
I don't have any comments. I'm fine with the conditions and comments we made, so
I'll make a motion to approve the project with the stated conditions.
I'll second it.
Okay. We had one condition and two considerations. Let me just review them briefly. The first one was install plant material along the southern boundary of the subject property such that a visual barrier will be created between the two properties. So everybody seems fine with that. The two considerations, it sounds to me like you want them to move to conditions. Is that an accurate assessment? So instead of saying consider simplifying the roof design of the residence, it's simply simplify the roof design, not a consideration.
I feel that number 2 needs to move up for a condition, but the roof will leave it up to the.
Okay, so number 2 is
I
a
don't know if they have
condition. Number 1 regarding the roof design is still a consideration.
Yeah, there wasn't any discussion on the roof, I don't think.
Okay. So,
It's matching the existing.
So
ground.
high up there, I don't think it's gonna make any difference.
Not gonna make it.
all right, so this will be a roll call. Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Charchian?
Yes.
Ms. Armanazuian?
Yes.
And Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
And for the record, we still need cards from the designer. Thank you.
Do we take a break, or can we?
Oh, okay, you're with the next project? Yes. Okay. Actually, if staff would like to request a real quick break, and, put up a couple more plans, that would be great. Is that all right?
Couple
Yeah.
more,
So take a 5-minute recess.
couple more plans.
All right, good evening once again, Mr. Chair, members of the Design Review Board. The last item before you this evening is case number PDR 1710941. It's a review of a proposal to expand the Subaru of Glendale automobile dealership. The proposed 4-level development will abut an existing 2-level building, a portion of which will be demolished. At the north and east facades. On the ground level, a surface or a service driveway ramp, service parking and bays, and an enclosed car wash are proposed. The second level includes service bays and parts storage. The third and fourth levels contain new car storage. Interior and exterior renovations of the existing building are also proposed. The project is located at 1308 through 1310 South Brand Boulevard and 110 through 116 East Cypress Street. Staff believes that the site plan of the site is appropriate because it is comparable to other large automobile dealerships in the city. There is a narrow landscape area between the proposed building and the East Cypress Street right-of-way, which buffers and softens the appearance of the project from the street. Additionally, the main access to the project is from Cypress Street as opposed to Brand Boulevard. And then finally, mechanical equipment is located within the enclosed building. Staff recommends a condition of approval that a landscape plan for the area along East Cypress Street be submitted for review and approval by staff. Additionally, consistent with the commercial design guidelines, that the applicant shall provide decorative paving within the first 20 feet of the driveway where there is a pedestrian automobile contact zone. The dealership expansion is proposed to be 4 stories as permitted by zoning code and contains service parking and bays, part storage, and car inventory parking. The nature and use of the building dictates its lack of transition to the adjacent neighborhood. The building will be taller than many of the buildings in the neighborhood or in the area, including the adjacent multifamily building to the east. The facade of the project contains, or the eastern facade of the project contains 2 different facing material, ephes as well as stucco, to break up the massive appearance. While the residential building is also located in a CA zone, staff recommends vine pockets to be installed on the eastern facade of the building and/or roof level planters to soften the appearance of the building from the neighborhood to the east. As conditioned with the installation of the additional landscaping, the mass and scale of the project is acceptable because the massing of the project is consistent with other automobile dealerships located within the city. The mass of the project is mitigated by the commercial building located at the street intersection, as well as the existing two-story building at the dealership. The building facades are composed of a variety of materials to reduce the sense of solidity and mass. And then finally, design and detailing. Staff feels that the project is appropriate because the contemporary style of it is reinforced with the building material used and is consistent with other dealerships on the Brand Boulevard of cars. Staff does suggest a condition of approval be added to the project, that the applicant shall submit junction or details of junctions between materials for review and approval by staff, so that when two different materials join, we want to see how they join. In addition, the board should consider where the plans call for a stucco facing, that it be smooth faced. To conclude, a mitigated negative declaration is associated with the project. Mitigation measure was added to the project, that the applicant submitted an acoustical study in accordance with state Title 24 requirements. That concludes my presentation.
Do we have any material?
The material board.
Oh, we have.
Right here.
Oh.
The applicant also
Applicant
has
seems to have one.
Okay.
You could turn it in if you want.
Thanks.
Okay, now that you're up, you can go ahead and get started.
Good evening, members of Design Review Board, City of Glendale, Board Member Charchian, Board Member Arzumanian, Chairman Malikian, Board Member Simonian, and Board Member Bambian. I'm Naza Farin Hadian, applicant for the proposed project that is expansion of the existing Subaru dealership located at 1308 South Brand. As explained by our planner, the proposed project consists of four-story structure that has a service drive, service bay, and 2 levels of car storage. Is there any
Okay.
questions?
I have a quick question. Do you know what? Do you know what this material is here? Is this the corrugated metal, or is it some sort of vertical metal that you could see through?
It is metal grills. So they're installed on a back beam and incorporated on the facade of the building. That part is incorporated inside the wall, but the one on Cypress is on the facade.
Okay, and that specific image, can you see through those metal grills, or is it opaque?
You can see through those metals. It's they're
Vertical slabs.
parallel
with
lines.
Airspace between
Yes,
them.
we keep them in equal spaces from each other.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions for?
We have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. I think that explains the project. Is it ready? The proposed project is the application for design review, adding a service drive, service bay, and multi-level auto storage to the east side of the existing building on Brand. project location is south part of Brand Boulevard in Glendale, where most of the car dealerships are. Glendale zoning map indicates that the zoning for the proposed site is commercial auto zone, zoning, which is CA. And the location, the site is located at the corner of Brand and Cypress Street. This is the parcel map of the proposed project site. And next, south of that proposed project site is the existing service building. That's not a part of project, but we're showing it as highlighted in gray just to see the relationship between the activities of both businesses. Zoning information for this project is, again, commercial auto zone, and lot size is 35,551. We have that indicated as 34,000 square feet, but this is per title. Again, development standards for CA auto zone. There is 0 front setback and 0 side setback, and maximum height will be 90 feet. In next few slides, we'll take a look at the site and existing buildings. These are images of the proposed, site for the proposed project, the existing buildings on the site. From the top picture is from Cypress, north view of the existing building. The middle image is on Brand, and the lower image is the service building. That's not a part of the project, but basically that's what we see on the south side of the project. Again, more images of the existing buildings. And this is facing Brand Boulevard. That building is a corner building. That's not a part of the project, and it's a freestanding building sitting on a separate lot. The top left image is the space between the two buildings. Other images are throughout the site from different corners. And a little bit of the history of Brand Boulevard, which has long been associated with advanced transportation system. This image is the Pacific Electric streetcars founded by Brand in 1930. And images of the existing dealerships, and the newer one and older one. These are all the dealerships right now we see on South Brand Boulevard. And next is the proposed project at the corner of Cypress and Brand. The hatched area is the proposed footprint for the project. Oh, I think some of the slides do not show here or not selected.
Drag the entire file.
Oh, that's new.
Yep. So this is the proposed project footprint. The hatched area is a footprint of the proposed building that's wrapping the existing showroom. A portion of the existing showroom will be demolished to locate a wider area for the proposed building. This is the survey for the existing building and the property lines. This is the view of the existing showroom and the proposed building from Brand Boulevard. With the existing building at the corner of Cypress and Brand, we will have
I'm sorry.
this is the view of the proposed building and the corner brick building. Next slide is north view of the proposed project. And this is from northeast, which is the wall next to the residential building. And we did this rendering when we had the staff report in past few days with their recommendation that adding landscaping on the edge of the wall or in front will soften the view for the residential building. And this is the southwest image of the proposed building, which is sitting behind the existing service building at the corner of Los Feliz and Brand. So at the corner of Brand and Los Feliz is the existing service building, which is not a part of the project. Behind that is the existing showroom and the proposed project on the back of the building. This is south view of the service building, and this concludes the information about the project.
Thank you. I have questions, but I'll let my colleagues ask. Do we want to continue on and then we bring her back for questions, or? Okay. So I'll reserve my questions after. We'll have all the cards, go through the cards, and then I'll ask you to come back and ask. I have some questions to ask you. Tony Dominguez.
Thank you. My name is Tony Dominguez. I'm operations manager for Universal Auto Group. We run this Subaru dealership, and we also have a Mitsubishi dealership that was formerly located in Glendale. We've only had this dealership for relatively short time, since 2009, and since that time we have grown to be the #1 Subaru dealer for our Los Angeles zone year to date. We sell quite a lot of cars in this facility. Hence the reason for our expansion. Our current footprint is too small to accommodate the growth that Subaru of America predicts for us. So we need to do this expansion to stay in Glendale or in this location. It's an ideal location for us. We generate a lot of tax revenue for the city, and we're looking forward to working with the city. And I must compliment staff, especially Roger, has worked with us closely to get this to a point where you guys can approve it with minimal conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Bill James. Okay. Can you please come up? Thank you. So I have a couple of questions, and then once, if you guys want to go ahead and, should I go ahead and start, or? Okay. So it's a little bit unclear about the information that is given. So the composite metal panel, is it something that new, or is it something that is going to match the existing metal panel that it's already there?
No, it should say that it will match the existing, because there is certain codes that Subaru follows, and we're keeping it in line with their color and material code.
Okay. The metal grills, I don't have any details or any kind of a profile information. Are these metal grills structural, or is it just going to be decorative?
They will be decorative, but we did the study on the metal grills. Let me bring you the other board.
Thank you. So they're actually square rather than these thin lines that we see on the plans or on the renderings. They're actually square members?
They can be square or T-bar. We're still studying on the final profile cut to see the final impact on the structural and the weight of that.
So, first of all, I really like the design. Very
Thank you.
simple, minimal, clean. The concern that I have is when we look at this design, it's very transparent and very open, which I understand. I foresee cars being parked, people driving and coming and going. But what is going to happen here is that once you're done with going through your design and structural assessment and probably the project architect assess the liability issues of the project, you're going to have to provide protection along the edge of these openings. You have cars parked, you have ramps that are going there. So what we're seeing there and behind the glass there, what we're seeing there is that it does not have any kind of a protection or any kind of a barrier. So what that's going to do is it's going to take away this thin member or material that we're looking at, the thin ramp. So is there any thought behind that or any kind of a structural support, that protection for cars and driving and going, because it's going to change the design unless these fins are going to be designed to, control the impact of the car, so then the look is not going to change, but I don't know if that's the case or not.
We're considering bringing the edge of that floor a little bit higher to, if required, to 3'6", but that impacts the design. So if the grills can structurally support that and we can provide the information, we prefer to keep the design as simple as shown and at the same time comply with code. If code says no and we definitely need to have the barrier other than the grills, we will raise the edge of the floor to 3'6" to provide protection.
So my another question that I have is that you're showing on your renderings there's some planting that it's going to be placed on the top, and also some creeping vines it's being proposed on the base of the building. But when I'm looking at the drawings, there's no placeholder for those amenities. So
on
is that
the
something
side
that
plan, maybe it's shown as
the
graphic
building
on
is
the side
brought
plan.
all the way to the property line. So I'm not sure if is there a
Actually, if I was understanding the applicant correctly, the renderings that she's provided now were as a reaction or as a result of.
Oh, I see. So the evolution of the plans haven't caught
Yes,
up with
that
the
particular rendering is between staff report and today's meeting.
Okay.
So we
So
went through
you
the.
want our input on what we
Yes,
think.
so
Okay.
we went ahead and we wanted to see how it will look like, and we also have our landscape consultant here to explain about
Okay,
the
so
plant types.
looking at the site plan, and I'm trying to find that site plan. Do we have any room between the building and the property line to plant?
Yes, we had to keep that 2.5 feet away from the
I'm
property.
talking about along the alley.
No, that will be only from the roof, hanging from the roof. On the
Creeping vines are gonna be on the street side?
Toward the neighbor.
Towards the east, right?
Correct.
Right. You need to speak in the mic so I understand, but you can just point it.
The planting on the north side will have space from the property line,
I
and the
understand that,
one on the
but on
east.
I'm more concerned about the east.
The east will be in planters on the roof, hanging from the edge, because the building is up to the property line, and we cannot plant on neighbor's property. So
Okay. And so the elevation that you have,
Yes, and that's the east elevation that first, when we submitted, we were thinking to have openings to lighten the facade, but that should remain closed.
Okay, so then on this the handout that we have, that's what we have here is just a depiction of a different material color,
Materials.
or it's just the score joints of the stucco.
We prefer to keep it all stucco on that side because neighbor's property is also commercial auto zone, and one day they build,
Okay.
so we prefer to keep it stucco only.
So the bottom gray, what does that represent? Is that something that you were?
The joint.
No,
Which
there's a dark gray and then there's no, I mean, is there like a color differentiation?
texture only.
It's just the texture.
Texture.
I thought there were two different materials.
That's what I
Ephes
thought,
and
so.
stucco.
On the north side,
the-
we will have a mix of
I'm
them.
On the
talking
east
about-
On
side.
the east side, we can add EIFs, but in the future, if they build right on the property line, then EIFs will be no use. And we're
Okay.
thinking of having stucco with two different textures.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to know. So all along the east wall that is along the alleyway, it's all stucco.
Yes,
And then it goes on the face of a block wall or whatever the case may be.
yes.
And my final question, any specifications on the light fixtures you have on the rooftop?
We know the height of the light fixture. When we were reviewing back and forth with our planner, we want to make sure that it's not disturbing the neighbors. So the height is 12 feet, but the type and specs, we don't have that
All
yet.
right, okay.
We will have it when we submit for plan
That's
check.
The neighbor, that's not an alleyway, right?
No, it's a driveway. Yes.
So the proposal is to have that sheer wall, what's the height on that?
You need to, I'm sorry.
What's the height on that? I turned it
I-
off because I was opening a can of
To,
soda.
to top deck is 47 feet, with parapet wall is 50, let me give you the, 50 foot 6.
50 foot 6.
But we have two portions that are the elevator roof and the staircase roof. That's 55, 8.
At the southeast corner, correct?
Southeast corner, yes. That's 55, 8.
All right.
But the rest of the building will be 50 foot 6.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have one more question.
And so going back to the top left rendering, we understand now that what you're proposing on the east side, which is, we've talked about that. On the north side, I want to get a better sense as to what you're proposing, because I'm having a hard time really understanding the elevations as to what the difference is in materials. And so can you might have to walk up there and just speak loudly, but pointing to the different material, and what are they on that north side?
Bring that.
Actually, if you can, yeah.
Or maybe one of your colleagues could bring it more towards you so it's right next to you. That might be very helpful.
That's north view only.
That would be
Perfect.
perfect, yeah.
So you got involved after all.
Earned my $20.
Up to this line will be EIF.
Okay.
Here is composite metal panel.
Okay.
Light openings, we don't know if it will be operable. If allowed by code, will be.
Some sort of glazing.
Yes, and these are metal grills over concrete and the masonry.
So they're opaque. If you're looking
Yes.
through it, you're seeing the concrete wall behind it. You're not seeing through it.
We're seeing the color behind. That's how it reflects the vertical line and the impact of the grills. So there will be a solid line, solid color behind the grills for 2 levels, and the middle is transparent, and then the upper upper level will be grills on masonry.
I see. So,
We
so
just
the
wanted
lower level in the middle,
Yes,
and the top, the parapet, you have solid masonry that's painted in the background with the vertical metal fins that are either square, rectilinear, T-bars, whatever it's going to be, but there's going to be some sort of a background to them with light penetrating.
correct.
You have ephes on the lower left, and then you have the glazing, and then what's on the right side, right?
This one?
Yes,
This row
Metal.
will be composite metal panel.
understood. And then the
And
top
glazing?
area, that's right, right in there.
This is the stucco.
And then that
This-
dark part where the ramp is, what is it?
It's just open, I think.
Here?
This part? Oh,
Correct.
this is the opening above the ramp that lands to the last floor.
And so those basically is where
This
the
is
cars are parked behind it, and all that is just metal fins with the parking behind it.
Yes.
Understood. Okay.
Basically,
Thank you for
the-
bearing with me. Now I understand.
We wanted to see the motion and the ramp going up, so that's why it's
Yeah.
transparent.
Very clean. I understand the concept now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're gonna close the public hearing. If you don't have any more questions.
Does that person want to speak in the audience? Oh.
Can we hear from the landscape consultant?
Do you wanna-
What is being proposed for the type of species?
The
Can we get on the record?
creeping vine?
The creepy vine?
Yeah. Do you want him to?
One second.
The vines are probably not in your plans because those are newly added as a result of
The conditions.
the conditions of the proposed conditions of approval.
Yeah, can we just ask 2 questions?
Sure. I'm gonna open the public hearing as well. If you can step up. And when you get a chance, just fill out the card, please. So if you can state your name.
I am Nanda Raghunathan with Studio Range. We are the landscape architects for the project.
We have a
Two
question.
quick
Sure.
questions. What kind of species, for the record, are you suggesting planting on the rooftop planters?
The rooftop could be campsis, which is a trumpet vine.
Okay.
And it's got nice bright colors, and it fills out pretty quickly, so that would be a good choice for that.
What was the growth rate on that?
It's very aggressive, so within a year, you should have the kind of coverage that you see over there.
Okay, and how deep of a planting does it need?
18
How deep is
inches.
the planter? 18
20
inches?
Yeah. 18 inches.
You also mentioned 20, or is it?
18 to 24.
18 to 24-inch planters. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Ms. Churchill. Or.
Go for it.
Mr. Churchill, go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Van Buren.
I'll start. I think it's a very well-designed project, very clean, details are consistent. I like the modern look, and I think it kind of complements the building next to it. There is that thing that I think Mr. Malikian mentions many times about like a building that's not very contemporary next to a building that's contemporary, and they just complement each other. And I really appreciate the fact that you went through and explained that elevation. I think that helped a lot. I normally, when I look at an elevation that has 5 different materials, normally that's not a good thing because it just, our comment would be like reduce the number of materials. But in that case, it works. It works well, it's clean, it's to the point. I think this will be a great project for that location, so I'm in support. And I think I agree with staff comments. These are my comments.
Okay.
The real.
Mr. Churchill. So, one of the things that I have to say is that it is a very unique project to have in front of us, and you're absolutely right. The Brand Boulevard of Cars is a keystone to the city, and it's good to see that Subaru is investing and the local Subaru dealership is investing. I know these things don't come easy. There's usually a lot of suggestions from corporate, and there's a lot of limitations to design based on the materials that the corporate brand would like to see. So I'm very appreciative of that. I would like to comment that I like the fact that the name of the city is there. Glendale is, so we should be very proud of that and maybe make it a little bigger. Just a little side comment there, but seriously, on the conditions for staff, I am in support of those, but I think we really need to focus on condition number 3. I have not been a fan of creeping vines being used to buffer or provide visual breaks or visual interest on buildings of this size, because typically, as hard as people try, they never look like this. They never look as beautiful as this rendering. One of the best examples is a city-owned property, the Maryland parking structure, where planters have been installed. They have all the things that would make it work, but there's actually no plants in them, right? Because it just didn't work. And I have a lot of concern because you have this, it looks like a 10 or 12 unit apartment building within 9 or 10 feet of that wall. So I think we need to think about that surface a little bit more, and how we could work with that. Maybe.
And you're referring to the east?
To the east, yeah, the east elevation. The east elevation. That's a very large wall. There's one without plants, and there's some other options, I guess, they've considered. But it's pretty intrusive, and we've got to consider the neighbor from that perspective. I think that we have done some really creative things to address walls of this nature, and I understand that there's some limitations that might come from the corporate side of Subaru America, but I think we need to focus on the wall, and I would like your comments on that before we make a decision.
I don't have any additional comments. I'm in favor of the project with conditions.
Overall, I'm in support of the project. I think it's well designed. I certainly appreciate all the renderings and all the different vantage points, the material boards, your presentation, and going through the PowerPoint slides, etc. Those are all very helpful to try to help this group in a very short period of time understand a complex building that affects many, many people. We certainly understand corporate bylaws. We understand how difficult it is with that branding to really make a successful design, working with the corporate images, working with the corporate logos, and then working with the design guidelines, etc. The north facade, as illustrated, I think is really the most successful part of the project, and that works really well. And we're hoping, or I'm hoping, and I'm sure my board's with me as they've voiced separately, that you're able to keep that lightness of that design if you're able to create those structural members, being those vertical fins to really emphasize that ramp. And I think that works out really well. Insofar as the south elevation is concerned, it's really not an issue because you're butting up right against your existing facility. Insofar as the west elevation is concerned, there's an existing building that's breaking it up, and you really just have a little portion of it, and you've addressed that portion with undulation, etc. So that really leaves us with the east facade, and I absolutely appreciate that it's a light color, by the way, because once you get a wall that big, which I know other brands such as Mini, etc., they tend to do a very dark color. which I think is just very obtrusive. But in this case, you have a lighter color, which works. I do think that you could benefit that east facade if you're lighting up at least the top level, because you have this lightness on the north side on that band, that's above the glazing, that whole level where the ramp is occurring, and you have cars behind it. And so you might be able to do something just as interesting somewhere on that east facade on the top, so the apartment building next door isn't looking at a ginormous 50-foot blank wall. That would be my only comment. Besides that, it's well done, well designed, well articulated, and it's just a fabulous, fabulous design, and we're super happy and appreciative that Subaru's staying in the city and doing what they're doing.
Thank you. I as well really like the project, and I think they've done a very nice job. I love the minimal approach to the whole the box proposal. There's a lot of features, a lot of elements that are coming together on this simple little proposal. So I think one of the key elements for me would be the detailing, as staff has mentioned, how these materials come together. I think that's going to be the key, make it or break it condition of this design. I am concerned about the east wall, not only because of the vastness of the large giant wall. The concern that I have is the protection of that large wall, that people are going to be driving by that. So after a while, this wall is going to be, it's going to be destroyed. I mean, there's no way of maintaining the stucco, the maintenance, or how that's going to happen. I have no idea how we're going to keep that up. And that's you just beat me to it. So I think it's going to be, like it or not, it's going to be a good slate for some artists to come and do their thing there. But having said that, I don't think planting is the solution, especially by emphasizing the height of the building, by putting the plant on the top. That gives you a scale, in my opinion. I don't know the maintenance of that and how you're going to control the growth of that. How are you going to, trim this? Is this going to be randomly growing all over the place? Is it going to turn yellow? It's going to create issues. And then is it going to, if it rains, it's dirty, it's going to start dripping down that wall. You got this giant 50-foot tall white massive wall that it's not going to really be as beautiful as this rendering is. So I think the solution of planting is not, in my opinion, doesn't work. Also, the creeping vines along the north elevation, again, same issue. You have, I've actually had a project done in Glendale on San Fernando, and it's controlled growth on the old Weber building on San Fernando. So, but they are very difficult to control if you're not really maintaining them. And what I'm afraid of is if we don't have boundaries and controlling the growth, this thing's going to go cover all the grills at the top, and it's going to go over the glass, and there's no boundaries set on that. So I'd rather see some sort of more of an elegant trees or planting or succulents or something there that, some a bush or something there that would not take away from the architecture itself. I'm also a little bit concerned in how it's going to resolve in the protection, and I'm hoping that staff will keep this minimal look in mind when they come back with the protection in mind. So hopefully we would end up seeing something similar to this at the end. It's not a deal breaker for me for that, having that protection or not, but I would hope to see something there. So so as far as the going back to the east elevation, one suggestion is that right at the joint of the the first joint at the lower section of that, may want to, change the material to, I don't know if the metal panels are a better choice. I'm not sure what type of the main structure you're going to be using, possibly, exposing the block, or I don't know, something there. Rather than bringing the stucco there, you have an actual concrete wall there that works with the design, and it's going to be a very minimal, and it's going to it's going to give some scale to that. Again, maybe some cost savings. It may actually be other. That I don't want to entertain design that it's not possible code-wise. That opening is right on the property line, so if that project that's being proposed, it's going to come back to us if we're going to approve that. You can't have an opening on the property line, so I'm not even going to entertain that. So the bottom one, the one that I'm looking at is the different intervals of grids. I think I like that, but I think we have an opportunity to control the base of that. Other than that, I think it's a really nice design. I think it's very clean. All the conditions have been met. And I would also make sure you submit a cut sheet for the light fixtures to make sure that they're not projecting towards the residential. But other than that, yes.
I was just going to ask, Mr. Chairman, what about a spandrel glass type of a faux opening look to give the appearance, but not have an opening, because that could alleviate concerns potentially.
Again, I like for me, I don't think it will work. For me, everything that they proposed in the front represents a certain function. So putting a fake material on the glass just to reduce the scale, it is a commercial zone. I mean, all along Brand, if you go one property over, they all have the same issue. Every single property is facing this giant wall, and it's not anything different than we're seeing all along Brand. So, but I think what we can do is soften the materials. Yeah, I mean, spandrel glass is fine. If they can come up with something, maybe match the front, that would be fine. But again, that will require them to push the building back, because I don't think you're going to be able to put the spandrel glass.
It would have to be a rated.
Well, no, what he's saying is that have the block and then put the glass in front of it, spandrel, so that it's like a fake glass in front of the block to reduce them. It can be a consideration, I guess. I don't know, but to me, I think the base, if it's addressed in a different manner, only because of the functionality and the activities that are going to happen along the base of that white wall is going to be gone within. I guarantee you, the first month that it's up, it's going to be either I don't want to say graffiti, but gray color or something there that I think it would carry. There's already an obvious line that it can be addressed. So can we read some of the conditions?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, can you come up? I'm going to open the public session.
Thank you. I just want to address your concern.
For the record.
Thank you. Tony Dominguez. Just want to address your concern about maintenance of that wall. Subaru of America, we have represented here, Mr. Ron May. They have a program. Annually, we have to maintain the standards of the dealership to their standards. It costs us money if we don't. So the maintenance of that wall will be prime, as is the maintenance of the entire
That's
dealership.
annually. I'm talking about weekly. Who's going to take care of it weekly? I mean, if this thing gets hit or graffiti goes or damaged walls or anything like that, is that something that you guys can maintain every week, every month?
That's something that we deal with
You deal with
as it comes up.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you have some sort of legal arrangement with the neighboring property for egress and access to maintain this wall?
That's something the architect probably need to answer.
For the east wall?
Yes.
Not that I know. but we can coordinate that. We have no problem to,
Because, I mean, it
For-
seems like that's what's going to
for access to
So,
the maintenance.
so essentially, you're gonna need to, in order for that design to work, you're gonna
Have an
to
agreement.
essentially take away their side, for X number.
We can
period.
coordinate something with them if it's,
But we don't want to condition something like that.
We're
I
not
just
gonna
was- I was
commit.
just
It's their-
wondering-
Their responsibility, they're the ones
Is
who
our,
use-
is the main point, or is the concern the ability of them being able to clean that wall, like power
Well,
wash it?
First of all,
and
to
that-
build it, they're gonna stucco it, so they're gonna have to scaffold that whole wall.
Right,
Right.
okay.
So scaffolding along that side, outside of your property line, someone else's property line, I mean, those are right issues.
And let me ask another
But
question,
that's
if
not
I
in our
may.
purview to discuss.
Structurally, is it a block construction on the ground level?
it's going to be a type 1 concrete building, block on the wall and the property line.
Understood.
Yes.
And then also on the second and third levels as well?
Yes, to complete the gap from column to column, unless we go concrete
I see.
framing
So
all the way.
as you're proposing the stucco or whatever the finish is, as Mr. Malakian is saying, it's applied over the type 1 construction.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the
For,
way to
for,
alleviate that.
for finishings, we need to,
That's where I was
Okay.
going with that. So
yes,
it's just to, I think we should kind of help them out rather than for them not to come back to us that, if the condition is there to, not to be able to access the adjacents and they're not able to do the stucco on the property line, I think we want to give
them a second
option
some sort
of
a decorative block, split face with some sort of a pattern.
and a pattern or some sort of like a,
More of a modern look.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it, yeah. I think that's something we could certainly work out as we're going through the conditions, is the what if
Mix the
scenario.
burnished block with different colors or other things like that, just to kind of, even though it's going to take away from the minimal look that you have, and you're going to introduce another material there, but it may not be.
And also something of interest is if they have structural columns, which I'm hearing her saying that they do, they could have some sort of a prefab masonry unit that comes on board, like you would almost like any other parking structure where they're welded on in a way.
Right.
You know, that's also
But
possible
I don't know
as
if
well.
that's going to give them the
Rating.
rating. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so let's continue on the conditions.
Okay. So we had 4 conditions and 1 consideration. The first condition, decorative paving shall be provided within the first 20 feet of the driveway where there are pedestrian automobile contact zones.
Okay.
Fine with that. Landscape plans for the planting strip between the project and the Cypress Street right-of-way shall be submitted to staff for review and approval. Plants shall be chosen which will provide a buffer and soften the appearance of the project.
Well, with the exception, we're deleting vines from the north facade and deleting.
Well, that was my thing, but I don't know if my colleague.
That
well, we
actually-
heard that as
yeah.
a potential condition.
That's actually 3. That the applicant shall install vine pockets or rooftop planters. So that's
So number
No.
2 is fine. Condition number 2 is good. They're coordinating with staff on
I'm
that.
sorry, condition 2 relates to the north facade, condition 3 relates
Right.
to the east.
Right, north facade. I think for me, creeping vines or hanging plants, they're all. In order for to be successful, you need to let it grow, and it's going to go all over the place. And how do you control that? It's just going to be.
So is the preference not to have creeping vines on the north facade and have some sort of succulents or water, drought tolerant plants along the north?
We heard trees, bushes, or succulents that
Right.
would soften and achieve that goal.
So I don't necessarily think number 2 needs to change then.
Right.
So eliminate number 3.
Yes.
Number 4, the applicant shall submit details of junctions between materials for review and approval by staff. And then there was a consideration, stucco used on the building shall be smooth faced. Is that A consideration or a condition?
Are you referring to like hand troweled smooth? 'Cause that's very expensive.
Just the general smooth stucco that we see on other commercial buildings that you've approved.
Okay.
Like a light sand.
Right. Yeah, I mean, smooth is, lights, you could have a shade of light sand. They could bring you a sample for you to look at.
Okay, so shall be smooth-faced or light sand finish?
Staff to approve a sample.
With this quality of building, you don't want to have a light sand, but that's just.
They
Well,
had
if you guys are
discussed.
leaning towards
No, I
smooth,
mean,
then-
I'd rather go with the EIF or EFS type.
Yeah, they
The
had discussed
texture,
if I'm not incorrect, at the east facade, certainly they discussed two textures. The upper section was going to be the ephes. If we are going with block at the lower section,
But
or-
Mr. Malakian has a good point. Is stucco brought up anywhere else besides this east elevation?
yes.
Yes, on the west elevation, right? On the west elevation, that side.
So is the,
we're seeing
is the
and-
preference, I agree with the EFS comment, shall we just go with an
Well, it's just
EFS
sand,
block?
the sand is fine, I mean, it's fine, I mean, if they think that it's gonna look fine, and let staff decide on that, I'm okay with that.
All right.
And then,
So now the
the
condition.
other condition I had, and you can discuss this, restudy the east elevation with the intent of reducing the appearance of mass. And that's pretty general.
Yeah,
Maybe Jay can,
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about with the texture, but we also had a couple of other
Oh.
conditions for the north facade where we have the grill work. We want to maintain the sense of transparency and lightness that you see here, and that is related specifically to the safety issues of whatever kind of guardrails needed along the ramp. So we would work toward having the lightest possible guardrail there rather than turning up the floor plate and creating that 3/6 wall. And we may have to work with building and safety. I've seen some ramps that have kind of tensioned cables, but I don't know if that's something that would work. And then we have the discussion of the east facade, like
You
Roger's
could have
talking about.
vertical cables instead of them being horizontal. That might work with what's presented.
Or possibly I think the first thing to explore is whether the grill itself can be structural and which could change some of its dimensions.
I think the applicant has presented a study that they're still trying to understand the structural components of the
Right.
grill work that they're proposing. I don't think that the lightest possible is where I would go with it. I think that there should be some, aspect of visibility or opaqueness to it, but if there's a slight, thickness variation or something that needs to happen for structural purposes and safety purposes, I think that overrides a little bit on design. Without
And I
being a
think-
solid,
I think we're hearing that also. If they have to beef up the elements, whether if the square stock has to increase its
Right, it
its
could turn into a
dimension,
rectangle.
we're still going to have a minimum of 4 inches between the bars, and there'll probably still be that sense of transparency. And we are it's still, the east facade is still a little confusing. You like the idea that's on one of the renderings where we have the different grid pattern, but then if we're changing materials at the base for the durability of the wall and the long-term maintenance, we have a condition to consider or to use block or another durable material there rather than stucco.
I'm just giving them an idea because that wall is not gonna, I mean, what they told me that they're gonna maintain that. So, I mean, the other option is that right above the entry bay, that section between the glazing and the bottom section, that metal panel can wrap around the side, so that breaks up the mass or the height of that. So you have a metal panel that is going in the middle. You have a different material, like maybe even an exposed block at the bottom, and then the stucco on the top. So you kind of create some variation in that wall, that it's not just one giant wall. I mean, there's different ways that they can. I'm sure they can come up with something. So.
But as kind of again, in spirit of helping them out, like as you pointed out, I think that's a very good comment to also have a what-if scenario built into the conditions,
Right.
so they don't have to come back. In that, if you're unable to access your neighbor's property to put up the stucco wall for whatever reason, for scaffolding, etc., that the architect could then at that point propose some sort of a design consisting of block or another type 1 construction that has variety and texture to match the overall flavor of the north facade, and that way you don't have to come back here. You could just, take care of it during plan check.
So if they determine that access from the driveway is possible on an ongoing basis, we can work with the design that they're proposing, with the stucco and the ephes, and then we'll have the grid pattern differentiated, so there's a little geometric variety. If access can't be,
Sorry, just to clarify, as they're proposing now, that east elevation is just stucco.
oh, I'm sorry.
Right, and the way that they divided, I like the way that they've done their grids there. I think it's pretty interesting. So all I'm saying is that they can introduce within the band different materials, like metal panel, base of that can be, whatever. Masonry.
Okay.
Okay.
So
We-
it's
we
something they're
have-
going to work with you, either
Yeah,
option A or
we
option
hear your goals, and we can work with everyone.
And, and the one last thing, on their composite metal panels should match the existing metal panels.
Okay. Is there a
I think,
motion?
we're about to make a motion, but is there, okay, can you come up? So maybe I'll just open up.
For the composite metal panel, we prefer to go with what's the latest because the existing one is older. So if we're doing a better quality, better job, we want everything.
I don't think
As
we
long as
care
they
about
match.
the material quality. I think we care about the look to match, so you don't have something different, and it should be consistent.
Sure.
So, for my clarity's sake, what may happen is the metal panels on the existing dealership building will be removed and replaced with
No,
the
they're gonna
newest?
match
Okay,
They're
so
going to match
let's,
the new with the old.
In terms of color and reflectivity, if not exact material dimension.
okay, that's not quite what I understood then. So you're not touching the existing,
No.
okay. You'll
Hi,
match it,
Mr.
okay.
I'm assuming that Subaru probably has a vendor for these types of materials that they just have on stock, just experience from dealing with these types of
Okay.
corporate builds.
So before we make the motion or roll call, do we need to acknowledge the negative deck?
You are correct. You need to adopt it, actually.
I'll make the motion to adopt a negative declaration.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I don't need to sign anything, right?
I have something for you to sign.
Okay.
And Mr. Charchian, are you voting to adopt the negative
Oh,
declaration?
roll call, yes, yes.
Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
Miss Arzumanian?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
All right. And then do we have a motion on the project?
I move to approve the project with the conditions as stated.
I'll second.
Okay, this will be a roll call. Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Charchian?
Yes.
Miss Arzumanian?
Yes.
Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
And Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Great. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a couple minutes.
We have, I believe, 2 sets of minutes.
August 24th.
We have 2 sets of minutes. The 24th and September 14th.
We have a motion for 24th, please.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th.
Second.
This will be a roll call. Mr. Charchian?
Yes.
Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
Ms. Arzumanian?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, yeah.
To abstain.
Sorry about that.
No, no, it's okay.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
All right, and do we have a motion for last week's meeting, or our last?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Guys?
Excuse me, we're still live, so if you can just keep it down for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Last week's?
It was 2 weeks ago, yeah. So there was a motion by Mr. Benlian. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the minutes of September 14th. This will be a roll call. Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
Ms. Arzumanian?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian? Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Adjourn.